If you look at the price of a service, this is specifically for service businesses, the price of the service almost has a one-to-one correlation with how advanced the business and business owner are. Almost all problems in business can be solved by more people finding out about your stuff, either to work for you or to buy from you.
If you control all the variables, then you can predict the outcome. Now, we don't always control all the variables in any given situation, but the greater number of variables we control, the greater influence we have over the outcome.
I think that the nature of agencies has changed. I think if you want to do like a Reddit reputation management, now that's kind of a more emerging offer because Reddit's become a bigger and bigger platform and people look there. I think the old school meta ad agency might be harder to crack into than some of the more newer opportunities that exist, and clipping agencies, things like those things are still opportunities right now, I think. So if we have beginner opportunities, and then we have what I think are great opportunities that are, let's just say non-just AI, because there's the obvious answer of like start an AI thing and automate for small businesses. And yes, you should absolutely do that. And there's lots of money to be made there. Great. Okay. Outside of that, what's not going to change? What can you bet on? I'm going to bet that humans are going to still want to look beautiful in the future, as they do now. I think people are going to want to stay young looking. And so I think the longevity, med spa, look a certain way, peptide, all of that world is going to crush and is already crushing right now. There's a huge supply demand issue. Believe it or not, I think wealth advisors, because I see so many businesses, and the ones I pay attention to are the people who are making more money than I think their skill level would connote. Right, would make sense for. Like on the flip side, I say like if I see somebody who's doing $20 million a year as a restaurateur, I'm like, bro, you could probably do $200 million a year in a different business. I had a conversation with a gym owner that was doing $10 million a year, and it was a service-based gym, not a facility usage gym, which is different. Like a Crunch Fitness is just like you use the equipment, whatever, but a true service-based gym, which is either personal training or semi-private training, really hard business to scale. Easy to start, hard to scale. And he was like, what do I think? What do you think the opportunity is for me? I was like, honestly, dude, you could take your exact skill set because you've got 100 employees and you're trying to deliver an amazing experience, but with low skilled labor. You have to maintain culture. There's all of this stuff that you have to do. I was like, if you took that same skill set and just applied it to a superior vehicle, you'd make more. Now, you might not want that and you might be happy with your existing business, which keep on, just know that it's a harder business. So all that to say, I think wealth is a big bucket. Wealth related services are still crushing. Insurance risk is still going to exist in the future. So there's going to need to be insurance. People are going to fractionalize risk, which is what insurance functionally does. The longevity, looking nice is one. And then anything that's not cool has like a discount applied to it is always something that's very interesting to look at. It's kind of like trash. Like no one wants to be like, oh, so what do you do? It's like, I'm in trash. Like it doesn't have the same gravitas as I'm a doctor, except that guy could be a billionaire. Right. And so if I look at like, oh, I do waste management for old people, like, human fecal matter. It's like someone's got to figure something out. Right. And so those are the types of businesses where it's like, look where no one wants to look. Look for things that people would not want to say at parties. There's usually big opportunities there if there's obviously money where I said old people, because right now wealth is so concentrated on I did my favorite video of the year. I did this breakdown. And because it was my favorite video, I think I got like 300,000 views. But I took wealth in the United States and I had it represent $100. 100% of wealth is $100. If you looked at it, right, and you had a circle for all, 100 people at different percentiles, right, there's like $2 in the bottom 50th percentile.
Wow.
It's crazy. And then you've got your next 40. And I think that was like $27, something like that. Then you have your next 9%. Which has like $36. And then the top 1% has 31. Hopefully the math, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood. And so when you look at that division, and then you're like, who should I serve? Many people who are starting out are here. And the only people they see are here. And so their view of the world is not accurate. And this is why they stay broke. Because they try to sell to other people who have no money and then assume that no one has money. There's nothing wrong with starting to sell to friends and family, but the goal, again, that's if your goal is to make more money with the business, should be to move up market. And if you look, so this is kind of interesting, something I've noticed. If you look at the price of a service, and this is specifically for service businesses, the price of the service almost has a one-to-one correlation with how advanced the business and business owner are. Just as a forcing function. Because in order to go up in price, like a service business done well means you did a good job, you have more demand than you have supply. And so what do you do when supply and demand crisscross? You go up in price. And so you continue this loop. And as long as you continue to deliver more value than you're charging for, you continue to have more demand and you just keep laddering up. And this is why price is such a strong signal for value, which why when you're starting out, it's hard to hear us say, hey, add a 0 to your price tag, add 2 zeros to your price tag. Because if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to do all of your social media management for $2,000 a month, I'm like, dude, you can't even handle me. Like you could, like, even if I said yes, you can't. The math doesn't math. There's no way you can do it. And so if someone comes to me, like the minimum I'm probably going to be willing to spend is, I don't know, $15,000 a month for a vendor. Like the minimum I could really possibly, and it'd be probably a smaller shop. And I know the founder's probably still integrally involved. And I'm fine with that because I'm okay with some founders like being good and basically me seeing them as a fractional employee that I'm paying less, and that works fine. All that to say, like, you want to have your price go up. 1, because you serve better customers. 2, because you'll have better margins. 3, because there'll be less headache. And 4, because it's a signal of how good you are at what you do. Mm-hmm. And the best businesses and business owners will know, oh, this is for me. You signal to them that you want to go out market, but you have low market prices. There's something called the Van Westendorp pricing analysis. You might have heard of it. It's from the 1970s. I do this most times when I launch a new offering. And so there's 4 questions you ask. Number 1, at what price would this be so expensive that you wouldn't even consider it? Mm-hmm. Number 2, at what price would this be so cheap that it would be impossible that it would be able to be valuable? It'd be too cheap. At what price would it be right at the edge? You'd have to really consider it, but you'd end up buying it. And then at what price would it be a bargain, a good deal? Almost all the core concepts in this book come down to figuring out who you want to sell, what you want to sell them, and how to get them to buy. And most of my content focuses more on acquisition, since the vast majority of small businesses, say 1 to 50 million, not always, but I'd say 70% of businesses, this is rough estimates, that come through our doors are demand constrained. They could use more customers than they have. 30% are supply constrained. The phone's ringing, but they just don't have enough account reps. They don't have enough technicians, whatever it is. And so what's really interesting about all of these books when taken in aggregate, almost all problems in business can be solved by more people finding out about your stuff, either to work for you or to buy from you, which also means that you probably have ongoing marketing to your customers. You think there shouldn't be ongoing marketing to your team and employees? Do we want our customers to give us referrals? Yeah. Do we want our employees to give us referrals? Do we have an incentive for people to bring referrals? There's a great story. A friend of a friend had a $10 million-ish a year business. He talked to somebody in the exact same space as him, who was way further ahead. And he was in business that had like agents that worked for him, like kind of like a brokerage. And the mentor told him, so what's the incentive that you have for your agents to bring more agents? He's like, oh, I pay him $500 if they bring a new agent on. And he was like, okay, what do you make on a productive agent per year in gross profit? And it was $250,000 a year. Productive agent, gross profit. He's like, so you're only willing to spend $500 to make $250,000? He's like, what would you spend for $250,000? He was like, I don't know, 50 grand. He was like, yeah. So why don't you make your incentive 25 to start? So he took his incentive from $500 for referral to $25,000. And he took his company from 10 million to 400 million.
I think they would have clarity on what actions were required to get what they wanted. And then at that point, they would only have to just think like, why am I not doing it? Which is a separate conversation. But there's a lot of confusion, I would say, around like, what are the things that are required in order to create a business, in order to create an income? I would say that I'm an objectivist. And so I just look at what are the things that are observable. And I think a lot of time people spend inside their heads trying to think about manifesting and energy and all of this stuff, when it's like, we got to let people know about the stuff we have. We got to have something to sell, and we got to make sure that what we're charging costs less than it costs to deliver it. And we try and do that as many times as we can. And so each of those pieces obviously has frameworks behind them, but they're all tied to one thing, which is just what actions are required. And that's been the single pervasive frame in my life that has made navigating reality significantly easier for me, because I was very confused coming up, and I was like, I don't know what any of this is. And I read all these self-help books, and I felt more confused after the 10th book than I did in the first book. And then it was just like, okay, what do I have to do? And then that is kind of what has started this journey for me. Because a lot of people who are wanting to make money believe that the making money comes from investing, and investing is the last thing you do. not the first thing you do. And so one of the things is they'll look at people who are at the end of their careers and say, okay, well, these guys are making all these, these bets, right? If I just bought this meme coin, or I just bought Bitcoin in 2013, I'd be super rich. But it actually doesn't take into consideration what a decision-making process like that would create, which is if you took a swing at every type of Bitcoin, because you can't just say, I would only pick this one. You'd have to say, I'd pick every single super long shot. It's like, we probably would have lost on 99 of the other bets. And so it's like, we have to take it in aggregate. And so I would say making active income cool again, rather than the passive bet and really just gambling, is probably the first thing that people mess up, is that they somehow think that working or active income is not scalable, when in reality, the people who have the most money typically have tremendously high incomes. And it's because of the excess of cash flow from that income are they able now to make big swings with riskier bets that sometimes pay off and sometimes don't. But you can't take those swings unless you have more cash flow that's coming in from the things you do every day. I mean, I think it's fundamentally the something for nothing fallacy of like, how can I get rich quick? How can I do it really easily? And basically, the more it feels like luck is usually where you should have your first red flag. I have a belief that if you control all the variables, then you can predict the outcome. Now, we don't always control all the variables in any given situation, but the greater number of variables we control, the greater influence we have over the outcome. And if you're getting into something like this and you're like, I actually don't even know what the variables are, then it's like you are 100% gambling. And so this is your life savings. Would you put it on black at the casino? Probably not. This is really not that different than that. Except at the casino, you have no nods, at least. You have no idea. And typically, by the time, especially Gen Pop, kind of retail investors find out about something, it is the peak and it is too late. And so you have to be at the very beginning of these if you want to be speculative, which I wholeheartedly am not a big fan of speculative investments in general, because it's basically the greater fool theory, which is what they call it in the investment world, which is just like, we just keep selling to the greater and greater fool until sometimes somebody is the greatest fool of all, and then it drops, right? And so I prefer to think about, instead of thinking of investments and active income, I think of it just money per unit of time. And that kind of takes out this binary, or what I would consider a false binary of active and passive, and think, well, and I feel like I can prove this pretty clearly, which is we live in time and we collect money in that period of time. And so fundamentally, all we want to do if we want to increase our income is just think, what are we earning per unit? And this is where, again, bad piece of advice is like, never sell your time. It's like, okay, well, if someone gave you $1 billion for an hour, would you not sell that? I would. How much is your time worth? And then that creates a much more actionable decision-making framework of, is this worth it or not? And to ladder up to the active versus passive, it's how active is it versus how passive is it? And it's my belief that nothing is passive, because there's always going to be a certain amount of, if you're doing it right, let's say if you made one passive investment, if you're doing it the right way, you probably should have looked at 100 deals, and all of that took time. And all of that takes diligence. And then after doing all this analysis, then you decide to make this investment. And so to say that it's passive, it's like, it doesn't take into account all of the research that goes into ahead of time, which is absolutely still work. Now, after the investment, sure, but there's still time that you're trading. By first breaking that idea of like, in order for me to get rich, it must be something that I don't trade my time for, I think is like big myth number one. So if we assume that, then we say, okay, I have to trade my time for money because money comes in over time. What are the things that I can trade my time for that will get me more than I'm currently getting, which is a much more solvable problem that also is significantly less risky. And so, especially when you're trading time, we have some. And so we really just risk the time to be like, I don't want to sell. I'm not a slave. It's like, calm down. It's a voluntary exchange. And here's the thing is, if you don't think the price is worth it, then don't make the trade. And that's one of the beauties of capitalism, is it's two parties both saying they'll be better off. And so fundamentally, I would say the focus of the content, the stuff that I put out is, how can I equip people with the skills so that when they trade that time, they get more for it, and then continue to trade up and up and up for the rest of their careers. I've had influence. So my neighbor he owns Panda Express. And so last time I checked, they did $3.7 billion in revenue, and they have about a 27% net margin. So he took home $935 million in personal income, not investment, income. And so people see his investment portfolio, which is impressive, as you can imagine, he's been doing it for 45 years. And so that starts to add up. But the thing is he can only take these kind of bigger swings or bigger bets because he has this very regular cash flow that he spent 45 years building. And I would say that what's interesting is that you can build something very big in about 5 to 7 years. And the problem is that I think most people spend that same 5 to 7 years reliving the same 30 days over and over again, jumping from thing to thing to thing, and never actually getting the root set so that they can pay down their ignorance tax of not knowing enough. Basically, I would say there's 5 stages that most newer entrepreneurs or people who want to pursue income go through. So the first is what I call uninformed optimism. So your friend tells you about this thing they made 10 grand on, and you're like, oh, that sounds amazing. You're uninformed, but you're optimistic, right? And so then you get into it, and then all of a sudden you get to informed pessimism. So you get in and then you put your money in and then it drops and you're like, wow, this sucks. And then, people are like, buy the dip. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to put more money in. And so then you get to kind of stage 3, which is the valley of despair, where you're like, oh my God, I've lost so much money. I have no idea what's going on right now. And at stage 3, there's kind of a fork. And so either people then go, well, my other friend told me about this other thing, and they jump back to step 1 and go to uninformed optimism. And then they funnel through that loop over and over again. Now, to break through that dip, you have to basically get to stage 4, which is informed optimism. So now you understand the rules of the game, you understand the variables at play, and it's not as good as you thought it was, but you at least get it. And so from there, then you can get to achievement, which is the 5th step. But the thing is that you have to stay in that 3rd painful place, because staying in the pain is what gives you the catalyst to learn how to get out of pain. And so rather than trying to pull your parachute, it's like, I have to trudge through this so that it forces me to learn the individual skills, the individual variables that affect this outcome. And that means I might have to take 20 more lashings to finally get it. And then at that point, it starts to tick up. Yeah. And then that's when you start to become more of an expert, more of a master at something. So great question. I would reframe the premise, which would be we'd still be operating under this as, I'm going to put money into something. And so I would reject the original premise and say, well, if you want to get really good at something, then why don't we start with the skills that generate income? Yeah. And so if we follow kind of the 3 elements of a business at its most basic form, is you have some element of promotion. So we got to let people know about our stuff. The second element is we got to have a way to convert them. So we have to be able to sell, some sort of exchange mechanism. And then finally, we have to deliver, right? So attract, convert, deliver. Very easy.